Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. And if my voice is a little ragged, it's because I have a cold, so I apologize. Or something. You know, these days there's such a repertoire of respiratory ailments we can get. We can get colds, we can get flu, we can get RSV, we can get COVID. I don't know what I've got. Probably a cocktail. But I know I got it from my barber because I went to get a haircut on Friday and he was hacking all over me and I knew I was in trouble from that moment on. So, enough said with that. We have here from Cedille their complete Beethoven quartet cycle with the Dover Quartet, issued in a box. Very nicely packaged, actually, with the original, cardboard thingies that it came out in and a bigger cardboard thingy. Simple and elegant, and it gets the job done, as do these performances. These are lovely performances. I mean, the Dover Quartet, these groups today, they are so accomplished. And this group has special characteristics, that I think distinguish it from the billions of other cycles that are out there and make it worth a listen. Some of these you will appreciate more than others. It's such a personal thing at this point because there are so many splendid quartet cycles out there. But what the Dover Quartet brings to the table, first of all, it's wonderful to hear a modern quartet play this music without trying to rough it up a la period instrument style. They still believe in things like beautiful intonation and accurate rhythm and I mean, they're just lovely to listen to, which is really great. The weakest part of the whole set, I mean, we have to get that out of the way first, I think, are the Opus 18 quartets, because I think those are the hardest ones to do. They're the most overwritten of all of the quartets. However dense Beethoven got later, he learned, finally, Haydn's trick in quartet writing, which Hans Keller so beautifully expressed in his book on the Haydn quartets, which is that a string quartet, Pace Goethe, is not, a civilized dialogue between four potentially equal players or whatever. It's nothing like that. It's a civilized dialogue between four potentially equal players, but that ensemble of four can divide up into duos and trios and all kinds of combinations. And the tendency for nervous quartet writers, such as Beethoven and Brahms were, and Beethoven particularly when he got started, is to just write too much, to try and prove just how intellectually deep and polyphonically aware you can be. Mozart had the same issue too at his last quartets, the Prussian quartets. So that makes things difficult. Textures can sort of clog up and whatnot. They don't really hear, but I just find the Opus 18 performances to be a little bit studied because they encourage that sort of thing, and you have to be really careful. After that, and they're very good performances, by the way, of Opus 18. They're not bad in any way. It's just my own perception. After that, we're really clear sailing all the way through. The Razumovsky quartets are lovely. I tend to prefer a slightly slower tempo in the first of them, da 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 da, instead of that cha 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 da 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 da. But they, it's a lot to be said for a real allegro. If there's any defect there, it's just a question of the beauty of tone is such that they're somewhat unwilling to rough up the music when Beethoven asks them to. I know that sounds hypocritical, right? Because I praise them for playing beautifully and not in the authentic way. But the difference is that the authenticity people rough up the music where Beethoven doesn't want it roughed up. And some of the modern people play rather beautifully no matter what, even when you can rough it up a little bit. But these are tiny, tiny, tiny little points of detail. Really extremely minor points of detail. I mean, like I said, the three Razumovskys are gorgeous. The Serioso is terrific. I mean, it's passionate and spontaneous, but also beautifully shaped. But you never get a sense that it's being shaped at like the expense of freedom of phrasing and rhythm and, all the things you need to like make the music spring off the page. In the late quartets, there are some fabulous things here. There really are. I mean, first of all, you'll never hear a better performance of the Grosse Fuge. It is spectacularly well done. It's, for once, it doesn't sound like they're breaking their instruments apart while they're playing. Now, I know some people want that to happen. You want it to sound like the string quartet is like, torturing itself and killing things and jumping up and down on their instruments. I want to hear the music played beautifully. And they really do. Nothing's going to make it pretty. I mean, let's face it. It's always going to be, kind of a a storm and stress kind of a piece, right? But they don't sacrifice, superior ensemble qualities in doing it. So that's wonderful. And then, pardon me, I'm sniffling now. And then the Heilige Dankesong, these slow movements where you would think a group like this is not going to get the spirituality part, the cavatina. They do. They're beautifully, beautifully done. And they really know how to spin out a long line and make the music sing. So that was marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. I think this is a fine, fine set. And, is it finer than pick your quartet of choice? No, I can't say that because you can't. You get to a certain level, and then it's not a question of this is better than that. It's just a question of what are your personal preferences. The sonics, as is usual with Cedille, are marvelous. The notes are excellent. It's a beautiful production from a major ensemble that takes the music seriously and plays it with conviction and with some really serious personal qualities. Can't ask for more than that. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.